properly this time. Wake me up when this is over. That's kind of what the theme of this last couple weeks has been. There we go. There's the thumbs up. That means we're ready to go. Yeah, wake me up when this is all over. What a crazy little time we're living in here right now. I'm 12 days into living by myself with my cat. I got a nice little setup here. I'm working from home for the time being. I have, you've all been seeing the food that I've been posting there, my version of a beef broccoli last night. It was kind of delicious. It's hard living by yourself here. Hi, Amy. Hi, Justine. Thank you, Justine. So we're doing this, and I'm really, really happy to have the gentleman on that we are going to have here today. I've looked up to this man for as long as I've known who he was, kind of following his tournament style along, and whenever I pull up into an area and he's there, I know I'm probably in one of the right areas for that day. So let's go see if he can give me a ring here. I don't know if he's listening or not, but we're trying something a little bit different. Hello, sir.
How are you, Matt?
Oh, I'm well, Derek. How are you?
I'm doing all right, thanks.
Can you see the screen there?
I can see you.
Oh, yeah, I gotta flip the camera around. There we go.
Yes, I can see you now.
Perfect. So you're going to be looking at my live stream for a bit, and when we start talking about that little deal you got going on there, we'll have it back around, and you can take a look at that there. So welcome to my second episode of Matt Too Bored at Home by Himself.
Welcome to Derek Too Bored and at Home by Himself.
Well, you know what? I very much appreciate you coming on here. I was just saying that if I see that Car Star boat on the water, kind of in the same area I am, I tend to not leave as quickly as I should, because you bring the confidence with you, man. I was doing a little bit of fun reading there in the last couple days. FLW, Lake Simcoe Open, Thousand Islands Open, Sturgeon Bay, Casey Cup, Canadian Open, Quinny Fishing Series. I could not find anything on the TBBA, so excuse me for not having those there, but FLW in between 2008 and 2012, a 4th, 21st, a 6th, a 5th, and a 3rd. If you add those up, I don't even think they're how old you are.
Yeah, a good little run going there.
Lake Simcoe Open, 2nd in 2016. In 2014, you had a 6th. Was it in, I remember you weighed in like a 7 and change. Was that year you came in 2nd? Or was that the
we did have a 7. We did have a 7 the one year, but we had a 7 3/4. Which is the biggest fish I've ever weighed in a tournament. We were still top 10, but we weren't. It was top 10 by carrying that big fish up. That's what got us there.
It was gross. I remember being. I think I worked for Bass Pro at that time when you brought that.
Yeah,
fish
it was quite a fish to catch in a tournament. We had caught the year before in practice. We had caught an 8 1/4, which is my personal best fish to date. And we caught that fish within 50 yards of that. So we're still not sure to this day if it was the same fish. It was getting old, obviously, so we didn't know if it was the same fish, lost a bit of weight, or whether there's that many giant fish in that particular spot.
Yeah, that's insane there. Then you go out to the Thousand Islands Open, like a 9th, a 14th, and a 12th the first 3 years, but I think you're running on 2/3 the last couple of years that's coming out, and that's incredibly impressive. I think that's the hardest tournament to win in the country right now.
I would agree with that, actually, because there's so many people that have knowledge of that system now.
Yep.
Years ago, when we were running in the big boats and crisscrossing the lake like it was a puddle, it wasn't as tough because a lot of guys didn't know the big water because they didn't have the gear. Boats were averaging 20 feet, not 21, 22. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's really changed, and I agree. There's an awful lot of guys in that 100-boat field that can win that tournament for sure, and it's without a doubt one of the toughest. It's the toughest field I've ever seen in Canada. Mm-hmm. I would say the toughest field I've ever seen is the Sturgeon Bay tournament. It's got every ringer from Canada and the Midwest U.S. in it, and it's something to see there. But it also can be 150 to 220 boats too, which is even harder to imagine.
I've never been out that way. I've never seen that water. I've never had to fish against that many guys in what I believe is a really confined area, from what I hear. Um,
There's lots of room to run, but yeah, it tends to, because of the way it's set up there, it tends to go off kind of all at once.
and like
So it does put guys in the small bays, and it can be a bit crowded at times.
big fish though.
Gotta,
Like I think there was a double digit number of 7 pounders weighed in last year or something ridiculous. But it's
yeah, oh yeah, biggest fish I've ever seen was weighed in there, and I'm trying to think of what it was. I have a picture of it. Oh man, I think it was like 885 or something.
that's gross.
And and I seen the fish, and it was funny because the guy holding it, just dwarfed you even, Matt. He had to be 370, and the fish looked big with him holding it.
Yeah, that's
Just a giant 6'6" guy and it was, I never thought I'd see a smallmouth that big, to be honest. But yeah, it kicks out some big fish over there. It's a lot of fun.
Then 2017, my favorite year of fishing ever. I think that's when you and Mike won the Casey Cup, the last good year of the Casey Cup, I'll say.
Yeah, the last open year we could leave Cooch. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was windy as a bastard that day out there, and yeah. Now this is where the sticky part that I couldn't necessarily find some stats here. You win the Quinny Fishing Series with Bob in '07.
Yeah, you know what? We won the classic down there. That was a long time ago.
Yeah,
We won the classic in '07, and then we repeated and won it again in '08.
'07 and '08. That's pretty impressive, actually.
That was fun. Yeah, we had a good time
Were you guys
down
running
there.
out then, or was it like were you guys like you and Bob fishing largemouth together?
Yeah, you can imagine, right? No, we ran out. It was fair game, and it was really rough the first year, but the second year wasn't as bad. But yeah, I guess we were just a bit ahead of the curve back in those days, just because we were geared up to run farther and in bigger conditions. So it was certainly easier because we were on our own, so to speak.
Yeah, no, that's now they have all sorts of rules out there. Hey, John, how are you? All sorts of rules out there that it actually kind of makes it a little bit interesting. But and then Canadian Open, there you had a second, and then in 2012, and you won it in 2015. And that's one tournament there that I feel that you're one of the best when you win that one.
Well, thanks for that. It's certainly a goal for all of us when that event was going like that. To win that event for sure, because it had all the some well all the best anglers, smallmouth guys that I know down there, and it was because it was a pro-am, which we don't see as many.
Yeah.
There's still a big one on Simcoe, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was just one of those things that everybody really wanted, and I was fortunate enough to get that one. So it's certainly probably one of the highlights of my career, if not the highlight.
And what were the weights that year? Was it like 23 a day type thing, or did you have to have a 27 bag?
No, you'll get a kick out of this. We talk about this often, and I refer to it because it wasn't really that long ago. When you consider 2 years in a row now, Mike and I have weighed in a 5 pound average in the Thousand Island Open and can't win it. So we've had 5 pounds over 3 days, 2 years in a row, and we finished third both years. And yet, when I won the Open, I think I had 60 pounds, so I only averaged 20 and change per day, and I think conditions were tough the last day weather-wise.
Yep.
But I still think I think I won by 4 pounds or something, which is fairly big, but it shows you how light the weights were comparatively and how much has changed in that short period of time.
Well, I remember that was also the first year of the Thousand Islands Open, if I'm correct. And I remember I qualified for the CBAF team that year when the Thousand Islands was on. Bob and Darren would drive past my first spot, and because they were coming from so far up the river, they would be sitting there honking the horn as they're going by. And my co-angler the second day actually did not believe that Bob Azumi was honking at me as he was driving by my first spot. Always kind of a funny little story there. But I think I had like 16 and change, and I was top 6 for that tournament a day. but even still, that 5 years ago. So the boom of those fish, have we figured something out better out there then, or are the fish getting exponentially bigger year after year? Do you think?
Oh, they're getting bigger every year. There's no question. Like when you're running around, well, sorry, I had a brain cramp there. Look what Todd Curry and Sean weighed in last year with
Like
the immense, like those are 4 fish limits. Like they averaged, I think,
5'8"?
5.6 pounds,
Yeah.
5'8", something like that.
Yep.
And you know what? They pulled off the fish early, 2 of the 3 days. Like it was, they would have put they put a beating on us as it was, but they
Mm-hmm.
would have put a severe beating on us if they would have stayed on those fish and worked them full days.
Yeah, but I believe
So
it.
and that's summer, you know what? And the other scary part about all that is because of the late spawn last year, those fish were still post spawn.
So they could have ate a little
Like
bit more and got a little bit fatter.
oh yeah, like Paul Clemson had that. Was it 780, I think, or 770, something in there.
Yeah, it was as big as
And I don't
Clemson.
know if you saw it. I saw it live. Like he called me over when I got there.
Yep.
It could have been 9 pounds. That fish was almost 8 pounds, and it was skinny post spawn.
Yep.
I think it was 25 inches long or something like that. It could have easily been 9 pounds if it had recovered.
That's thanks, Darren, for the note. I turned my my mic up there. Yeah, no, it was huge, and they had like a 680 to go with it or a 690.
Yeah, because Cal pulled that out first, Cal Clemson, and I went, wow, the thing's huge. And he goes, no, that's not it. And I just shaking my head at Mike because we didn't have anything close to that. We had bookend fish every day, but we didn't have any tanks at all.
Well,
And lucky they didn't get a couple more big bites, so they would have been a threat to Todd and Sean.
yeah, no, we'll touch back on that there, but kind of all these bodies of water, even the Quinny when you were running out, those FLW, what are they called? Toyota series now, whatever. Costas, Redman, I don't know what they're called anymore.
Costas now.
No,
I think
Toyotas.
Costas, they were Strens and they're Toyotas now.
They're Toyotas
okay.
now, yeah. But that was Thousand Islands, Erie, Thousand Islands, Lake Simcoe Open, Thousand Islands Open, Sturgeon Bay Open. You fish big water, which kind of leads into well, kind of leads into you into a bit of an exciting announcement that you had there last week on your social media pages there. And what would you like to tell all 7 people that are listening? What there's way more than that. I can't believe how many people are actually watching this thing. What you're running this year?
Yeah, I had the pleasure of talking to a gentleman by the name of Jason from Campion Boats. Campion, for those of your listeners that don't know, Campion's been around for just shy of 50 years. Canadian company, high quality builder based out of Kelowna, BC. And I guess sounds like about 8 to 10 months or so ago, they started working on, in meetings along the way, they decided they wanted to produce a multi-species boat. So they got together, they spent months and months and months researching it, spending a considerable amount of time and money, really, really looking at who their main competitors were going to be. And we certainly know who they are. Pretty popular names in our industry for sure. But So anyway, they've came out with what they call the Campion Rage. This particular boat I'm running that you have up there is it's a 22-foot 9-inch. It's called the R22, and it is a big multi-species boat. So I'm really excited to be working with them on everything from design to marketing. And we are in the process of designing a 20-footer as well. So for the folks out there that think maybe that almost 23-foot boat is maybe a bit much, we are working on a 22, and I'm going to have some input on the design of that 20 as well.
We've had a couple of questions in here for you, Derek. This is an all fiberglass boat?
It is. It's fiberglass. I shouldn't say all fiberglass. It's yes, it's all fiberglass with the exception of the base of the boat does have some Kevlar runs as well for strength.
Okay, yeah, no, that's good for that big water there. And you're going to be still running the same power on it as you were previous?
You know, I haven't discussed that yet. I did. I've always been an Evinrude guy. I've ran Evinrudes for 23 or more years, I would say, at this point.
Yep.
But I am more or less leaving that up to Campion to decide with their dealer what they'd prefer I ran.
Yeah, no, that's the right way to
So
do it
that
there.
particular, yeah, that particular boat had the new Merc style on it. So I've been loyal and they've been loyal to me with Evinrude, but I will yield to what they prefer.
So what are some of the things that attracted you to this? Was it just the size or um
No, it's got to be about layout, right? When
yeah.
the size, obviously, I wouldn't have looked at anything under 21. Mine currently is 21 and a half. But when I got a chance to, I was skeptical. I'm pretty comfortable with my boat, but when I first talked to Jason, he wanted to meet, he wanted to discuss it and look at the boat. And when the Barrie Boat Show was on in early February, I ran up and they had one of the rages at the show.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I saw the boat and got in the boat, I knew that they did their homework. I was blown away just by everything, actually, the quality of build, the attention to detail. Because this is a company that's made their, like I said, shy of 50-year existence on building quality for a very demanding recreational boating market.
Mm-hmm.
Your cottage market, skiing, things like that, and they're very, very high end boat in that market and known for being so. So obviously they're reach into the multi-species fishing world and recreational world too to some degree, but
Mm-hmm.
certainly predominantly fishing. They did it right. Everything from the ultra deck flooring, which I just can't believe we're still running around on carpet after all these years, because for over a
That's what we're
decade.
looking at here, right, Derek?
Yeah, so the ultra decking is a product. It's foam flooring. It's UV resistant. It's dominant in the saltwater market, as you know, Matt. I
Yep.
spend a lot of time fishing in saltwater, and you'll never see carpet anywhere near the ocean because it just wrecks it, right?
Yeah.
It can't take the sun and it can't take the salt and the elements there. So it's been a while, but I'm so glad they did that, because that particular boat, you have the option of having a freshwater pump kit, and all you do is pull the hose out and rinse it off.
That's pretty cool.
It's right in the boat.
Yeah.
It's right in the boat, and that's pretty common in the saltwater arena as well, because because same thing, they have foam or just anti-skid gel coats, so you wash them right down in the boat. You don't wait till you get back. But,
yeah. No, that's.
And then just walking around it and seeing the layout and everything from the one compartment in the floor. And I battle this in my boat. If there's one thing I dislike about my current boat, it's the old trying to get to the pumps, trying to get to where your transducers are mounted, trying to get to batteries. I'm not a big guy, as you know, so I almost need somebody to hold my feet when I lower myself into these horrible places to get at my equipment.
Well, it looks
the whole floor opens up right in the center where your cursor is there. That whole panel opens up. It's probably 2.5 by 40 inches.
Mm-hmm.
And all your pumps for the live well, all your switch, they have a valve off.
Okay.
So when you do if you're in the water and you're doing any plumbing work, it's not going to pour into the boat. That's something I've never seen. And this boat comes with 2 cranking batteries factory. I've never seen that before. I've always had to, but I had to tear things apart to get the second battery in beside where the factory battery came. And this one comes with 2, which when you're on your knees, they're right there. You just reach in and lift them out, not having another buddy hold you while you're trying to get them out. And I kid about that, but it is a really frustrating part of a lot of the boats is trying to access these things, and they really did a fantastic job on that. Storage wise, there's all kinds. Being 22 foot 9 inches long, there is a crazy amount of storage. I did do a walkthrough video on my Facebook page if anybody wants to see it, and I also have it on my YouTube page at Derek Strube Fishing, which is pretty weak at this point, but I am going to ramp that YouTube section of my marketing up this
it's
year.
Hard,
finally. It is. It's the editing that takes so much time, and as you know, we all work for a living, so it's something I'd love to get into, but I guess even if I was quick at editing, which I'm not, it still takes a lot of time away from my family, right? Because I'm only here in the evenings. So, but I'm going to ramp that up, especially in 21. But I'm going to start ramping it up this year. But The other thing is the windshields. You can see it is a full style windshield, but you see the really angled back.
Yep.
They're actually made with automotive unbreakable glass. Like it's the same shatter resistant glass that's in a car. So you don't have to worry about plexi bending or anything like that.
When you hit a cormorant going around Kingston. Or
Simcoe or anywhere now. But if you look, they're really angled back too. So seating is high end. There's nothing on this boat that isn't high end, and that's what they build in their main market and the wreck boater market, and they continue it onto this. And I can't wait to show people, because I'm sure a lot of people are going to think, wow, we got another boat company trying to get into this market, but they're going to be blown away by this. And I'm going to say by the build as much as anything. I'm sure the ride will be heads and tails above most because of the size of the boat. But
does it have headlights?
They're not actually headlights. They're actually the running lights right and left, right? So starboard and port running lights.
Smart.
They're just built them in as a design feature there. It's pretty in the back. Certainly for me, as I get, obviously I'm not a young man anymore. As I get closer to retirement, I'm considering doing a lot more rigging and salmon fishing, walleye, etc.
Right.
And the back of that boat is it's perfectly set up. I can have riggers on this one, I think, too.
There's no transom.
There isn't, and that's really cool too. And I was looking at some other stuff today we're always being fishermen. We're always looking at different sites and looking at fishing in general. But you basically step through. There's no raised. They don't have to have a raised back transom because the motor is on a swim platform. So the motor is lowered. Oh, it's lowered, 10 inches? 12
You're one of the
inches
best smallmouth fishermen. You're one of the best smallmouth fishermen the country's ever seen, and you're saying swim platform on your boat. This still blows my mind.
Yeah, you could also relate it to the U.S. The big saltwater boats. What do they call it? It's basically a plate that goes on the back of the boat. Again, same reason. The motors are too high, have to go off the transom.
Yep.
So they just lower the transom. It's a secondary plate that's attached, but that one's called a swim platform. And you know what? I bet you could put 3 or 4 guys standing back there. And for me, I was joking the other day with my wife. When Mike and I have a fish on, or anybody I fish with have a fish on, I am hanging off the motor with my 12-foot net trying to get it in the net. And we could easily both stand back there. That puts you behind the motor pretty much, or like right beside the motor.
Yep.
And there's no step over a transom to get to it either. So it's going to be a great netting spot for me. That's for sure.
Pending you're not sitting in 4-footers.
Even then, I don't think it'll matter, to be honest.
Really?
We wear flip-flops. I don't care if I get my feet wet. Yeah, there's not going to be any waves coming over the back of this thing. No way. No.
It's very fascinating design.
It is. And you know what? That's what really caught me, was the fact that, like I said, they spent a lot of time. When I was first chatting with them, I thought, well, we've all seen boats come and go, and they make a partial attempt at building something that we considered a multi-species boat, but this one is going to really amaze everyone that looks at it. It takes a lot to surprise me. It's been 30 some odd years I've been doing this, and I was very surprised and very happy, because I'm a proud Canadian, as most of us are, and the fact that this is one of the last significant boat builders. Campion is one of the only ones left. Like when we were coming up and through, you would have been a young man. There were quite a number of Canadian builders, and they just got pushed out by these gigantic companies now. Like most of our boats that we compete in are all owned by a handful of people. So, and we know who they are. I won't get into that, but
I can say it though. I heard when after that big takeover and purchase was made, Johnny Morris owned 78% of the boating market. Isn't that ridiculous?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Yeah, for one person. So, you know what? And like I said, I think it's really cool. If you're a wreck boater and you're a cottager in Canada and you don't do a lot of fishing, chances are you see 100 Campions a summer. Well, we're not in that. That's not the game we're in. So we're just not as familiar with the brand, but it's been around a long time. Significant warranty. Famous for their Apex 2 hulls, as far as hole shot and speed. And I'll prove that point when I get out there and blow by guys. But it's, it was a good angle of the front of the hull on that spin. It's got a cutter on the front of it. Boy, it's it's going to do what I need it to do, and that's protect my back and neck at this age I'm at. So.
What are you going to get for speed on it, do you figure?
I think we'll be running a 300, and I suspect that the little tweaking I have to spend some time talking to the design guys. I suspect we'll be in the low 60s, which is significant for a boat approaching 23 feet.
Yeah, 2,800 pounds or something like that, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's not a light boat, but bear in mind the size of it. And,
right.
Yeah, it's structurally very sound boat. That's why it's a little heavier than a lot of the boats we run in. And it's also bigger, right? Like I said, I have one of the biggest boats in the field, if not the biggest, and this thing's 15 inches, 16 inches longer than mine.
Wow.
So
that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what though? It's going to be fun. And is it going to be a great boat for flipping in a cut? No, it's not, but that's not what it's designed for. Nor is mine. Mine is horrible as well. It catches too much wind. It's not fun in tight places.
Well, I run that giant,
for what
I run that giant Lumacraft, though the wind on those high-sided boats it pushes you.
It does, and I think being in a marina with the wind blowing, waiting to weigh in is the biggest stress for me because I just can't. You can't control a boat that long when it's tipped to the back of the motor. This boat I'm in currently is 26 feet, and the one I'm going into the Rage is going to be even bigger than that. So.
28 and change, yeah. What's the rod storage in it? We have a question here from Mike Kiss.
It's a little bigger than the one in my Triton currently. It does have the fixed tubes at the front, so it should hold. So it's got 12 holes in the front, so it should easily hold 20, I would think.
Yep.
I know I can get a good 20 in mine, and this one's a little bigger than that. So that won't be a problem for me anyway. I carry a lot of rods.
You carry more than 20 rods?
I do. Yeah, I do. I'm a pretty fortunate guy. I have a fantastic partnership with Loomis and Shimano, so they take good care of me, and I've got lots of toys when I travel. So
that's good. So let me ask you this: with the ever changing market that we have here, what's you've said you've been doing this for 35 years, 30 years?
Yeah, I'm 32. This will be my 32nd summer. So
you know I'm only 30 years old.
Fishing
right,
competitively. I know. You weren't even a thought yet, and I was bumbling around in my first tournament.
What outside of this boat, obviously, what are some things that you've seen in the last couple of years that has come out that excites you in the fishing market?
Well, for me, as well as anybody, Matt, I'm an electronics guy. I spend my life standing like a great blue heron on the front of my boat with my head down. And that's a joke, but I always laugh because when I see Simon, we can tell each other, I'm sure, the second we see each other, because we're always staring at our electronics. That's how we do what we do. So yeah, I get kind of more excited than anything else about anything to do with electronics, whether it's the Ultrex and the ability to have kind of a somewhat cable and electric steer, which gives you the best of both worlds, the ability to spot lock and go to in those things. And then for me, I'm a graph guy. So the 360 Mega, I was using the 360 heavily up until now, and I'll be using the 360 Mega like you wouldn't believe.
Do you run helixes or Solixes?
I do run helixes. I could run Solixes, but I run helixes because that really I don't need any more than that. Like Solixes are beautiful, touchscreen, all that, but a lot of the people that I deal with at a club level on my seminars and all that, I run the same units they do. I don't want to step up and run bigger units than most of the people I deal with have. As far as they do all we need them to do, and they work fantastic. So I always run helixes. I have 4 in my boat.
Yeah, 4. What the average person listening may not really understand why you would need 4 graphs. You want to explain that?
Sure. In the front, because I'm running Humminbird 360, I have Helix 10 and Helix 12. The 10 will have nothing but it'll have DI and 360 running on it, or 360 alone. And the 12 will have regular down sonar, and quite often I'll have DI running as well, or mapping, of course. So you do really need 2 units, more so at the front than the helm, probably. if you're going to run multiple technologies like that, right? Because if I had 360 going, that means I have to choose between, on the other side, I have to choose between mapping
Mm-hmm.
or standard sonar, where really you have to have all three of those minimum. So this gives me the opportunity to do a lot of things. Actually, I can run mapping and regular sonar, and then I can run DI and 360 on the other one, or I can run two maps. That's what I do at the helm. I run two different maps.
Why?
So I can, because the different companies, I predominantly run Lake Master, but there are other manufacturers that have mapping too. So I make sure that if the mapping's a bit different,
Mm-hmm.
I will quite often be running both just to make sure that I'm not missing anything.
Do you make your own maps? That Hummingbird is great for that. Do you
I
take advantage of
do.
that?
You know what? I do. And the cool thing about that is people don't understand that if I'm running around making live mapping with my Hummingbird units, it's called AutoChart Live.
Yep.
For your listeners that aren't familiar with it. And I've been preaching about it at club level for years at the seminars, because it can be running in the background and you don't have to stare at it and watch it. When you're out practicing or running around fishing, it's constantly building this map in the background. And I do it on lakes that I'm already on, because in a lot of cases, these lakes aren't mapped very well. And Lake Ontario is a very good example of that. It's horribly mapped. So I'm out there running around, and I'm kind of happy about that, because the one thing about the more experienced guys, in the sense of time on the water and years on the water, we have a lot of stuff that isn't on maps, and every time a new map comes out, we cringe, because chances are it might throw a contour where we have waypoints that people don't, because we've spent those years looking for these oddball things.
Yep.
And the other thing it's really good for, the AutoChart Live, is a place like Bellwood Lake where I work, Matt.
Yep.
You can go out there, and in a matter of a few days of fishing, you can map the whole lake. And I mean detail, 1 foot contour. And you have the ability to make, you think about this, way, way more detail than any of these companies could possibly make, because you think that these survey boats aren't going to zigzag back and forth every 50 feet when they're doing Lake Ontario,
Mm-hmm.
or the survey wouldn't be done until we were dead. The math just doesn't work, right? So you can go out, and to make the perfect map on key structure areas, I go out and zigzag around and parallel them, and then I'll go down perpendicular. And then if I see stuff starting to show up that I want even more detail, I'll run at a third angle, so that it's actually correcting itself. So it's constantly adjusting the contour lines based on your angle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's making them more accurate, because as you run, it's guessing a little bit to the sides, because it has to speculate to some degree.
Right.
The computer is estimating, and then when you crisscross at a different angle, it's giving it factual information. You can end up much higher quality mapping on AutoChart Live than you could ever buy.
No, I fully agree with you, and I didn't actually start auto charting fully until I seen you at the Hamilton Club meeting there before you drove your daughter back out. And last year I didn't fish for anything other than bass last year, because I spent all my pre-time going over waypointed areas that I have to see what else I could find there. And one area that I fish a lot on Simcoe, I thought it was one big hump, and it's actually 4 concurrent humps in a row. So it's amazing. Right. Even like areas you've been fishing for years, you can learn from just by going over them. And it's quick, real quick.
It is. Like I said, you can, anytime your graph is getting a signal. So if you're running the lake, if your transducer's set up well, you can quite likely get a signal into the 50s or 60s mm-hmm. miles an hour. And as long as your graph's getting that signal, the Hummingbird's going to turn that, like AutoChart Live is going to turn that into mapping. So you can be water skiing around a lake and making the map. Literally, like it doesn't require idling. It doesn't. And that's why I say you can do Bellwood in a heck of a hurry, because we're used to big water, and Bellwood's only, I don't know, 2.5 kilometers by 12. So, and you're obviously, you don't care about the center of the lake, because we're not concerned about, we're concerned about structure and points and humps and, yep. and things like that. So we only need to do do the mapping on the areas that we're concerned about.
Yep.
Right. So I can overlay AutoChart Live over Lake Master and give it a little more detail, because I'm running around anyway.
So I know, like, the graphs and how useful they are for stuff like that. If you take a new body of water, and specifically these larger body of waters, Lake Erie, Lake Simcoe, what is something like how do you start? How do you break down a body of water like that? It's been a long time for you going to something new that big, but what advice would you give to somebody that wants to learn these bigger bodies of water?
That is a really good question, actually. Fish or fish. If you have a general, I don't care what lake you came from. Say you spend a lot of time in Crystal Beach and you spend all kinds of time on out on Erie there farting around, and you have a good idea where bass live and why they live there.
Yep.
You just take that base knowledge, and if you're heading to Lake Ontario, it's fish or fish, structure is structure. For me, it's all about. I do a lot of running around it at barely plane speed, zigzagging, big lakes. Big structure, take more time to break down. It only makes sense. There's way more options for water. So I do a lot of speed looking at first. And then when I see something pop up that I want to get a better look at, I'll stop and side imaging around, mark waypoints, and then I'll idle the waypoints. If I mark fish, I'll drop down to basically sample quality.
Yep.
And then I'll go back up on plane and keep zigzagging again until I find something else that stands out from the rest of it. But
so all of your searching is done from the driver's seat.
It is. You won't very often see me stand up, actually, and I shouldn't say that out loud, but people will often think that, hey, I've never seen you fish all day. I don't know, you didn't see me fish, but chances are I was fishing a little bit. But I quite often just drop from my seat.
Yep.
I don't need to get up and throw the electric in. I can see everything I need to see, Matt, from my helm there.
So the 360 that you run, do you run it off the back of your boat, or are you running it off your trolling motor?
I do run it off the trolling motor.
Yeah.
Currently, it just gives you, because you care about the 180 in front of you and to the side. What's behind you, you've already seen. Mm-hmm. The way I look at it. Very good tool, especially for finding transitions. Structure off to the sides or where you didn't plan on casting to, things that you haven't seen before.
Yeah.
So it gives you a pretty big advantage that way. If you're fishing a big rock flat and it's all the same stuff, it's really not going to show you much more than you already know is down there. But if you're trying to find a transition line between any two types of structure, or if you're running on a big shoal on Erie where it's mostly foot-sized rock, you may notice on the right there's one big boulder over there, or you may see a dark line on the one side where there's a small drop. You're going to pick up more information, and because it's a directional GPS receiver on it, it basically tells you by looking at the graph, the angle that the structure you're looking at. So we can fire a cast at 12 o'clock. It's got distance rings, so if it's 20, 40, 60 feet away from the boat. Mm-hmm. So we can make pretty accurate cast to structure we see on that 360.
It's something that I haven't played with yet. I'm thinking that's probably should go on my Hummingbird order for this year.
Yeah, it's certainly on mine.
Yeah.
that Mega will be a big difference. I don't know if you've seen the pictures, but if you haven't, or your listeners haven't, have a good look at them. They're incredible detail.
Yeah, no, it was pretty impressive. I was playing it down at the Classic, just looking at some of the images there, and so is this what you're looking for? Kind of the transition areas, and is that what you're looking for with that 360? Or are you looking for fish specifically?
You can locate fish with them, but I compare it somewhat to side imaging technology.
Yep.
It's really not meant for that. Like, it will mark the occasional fish. It'll show us a lighter, elongated, almost white mark on SI or 360. Mm-hmm. But it's more about finding the structure that we know. We all have a pretty good idea now. If we see something, I can tell you in most cases when I'm idling around, I can tell you if I mark something, there's going to be fish on it. Things are out of the norm. If there's a mile-long shoal and every rock is 20 inches in diameter, and you find a patch of sand that's 30 feet long, there's going to be fish on it. Fish will always be, they'll always be on something a little different, whether it's a 2 foot break on a flat shoal on Erie, or, you know what I mean? Or change in rock size, or rock to mud, or rock to sand, sand to weed. All fish are the same. They all run edges, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're not unlike fishing for largemouth on a weed line, or, there's always going to be key areas, weed points, indents, inside turns, things like that. But back to the, heading to a lake you don't know, really, you know, it really comes back to some of the first articles I ever read when I was probably in my teens. A point is always going to be a point. Every point on every lake will hold some fish.
Mm-hmm.
A shoal is the same, inside turn. So you just take the knowledge you already have, and if you go to a new lake, and yeah, you apply it the same. The fish are still the fish. Sometimes Simcoe's probably my biggest example of a fish that don't play by the rules, because
worst.
they really are their own critter. Like, they do their own thing, and sometimes it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I've learned over the years of frustration that, all the rules on Simcoe kind of go out the window. Super hot, super calm. These fish pull right up on their bellies. Like, it's bizarre, but, most lakes are pretty patternable, in the sense that if, I remember going, when I was fishing a lot of the FLW events, they held one at Presqu'île National Park in Erie, Pennsylvania. And so there's an event there, and I wanted to go. It was close enough to get to. And I've never been there before. So I went down with my buddy Taylor Abbott, came down as co-angler, and we practiced together. And you know what? It's no different than fishing on the eastern end or the western end. It took minutes to find fish. Again, structure. If you get it and you understand what you're looking at, and you spend the time, idling and side imaging and looking for the spot on the spot, so to speak, it really doesn't matter where you go.
Erie, I feel, is that, like, even it's different than Ontario. Simcoe is its own kind of animal in itself there, but Erie is the only body of water that I feel follows the textbook, if that makes sense.
I was going to say the exact same thing. It is, and you worded it exactly like I would have. It is a textbook structure lake, where if you find the things that fish normally would hang on, you're going to find fish.
Yeah.
It plays by, those fish play by every rule, and they adhere to most every rule. There are rogue, fish that do some funny things there, but for the most part, it's a very key structure lake. It just lends itself to that, I guess, with the number of points and breaks, and, more so on the U.S. side, as we know. I guess the way the glaciers pulled off and pulled north, it pulled a lot more structure off the American side than it did off the Canadian side. But
how deep do you fish on Erie?
I'll fish all the way out in the mid 50s, almost 60 in places. Most people that know me know that I'm happier if I'm deeper, because my electronics are more valuable to me if I'm deeper.
Mm-hmm.
I consider anything less than 25 to be shallow, and that sounds odd, but you know what? It seems odd, but you think about that for a second. If you're sitting on Erie or Lake Ontario and you're in 25 feet, in lots of cases on a calm day, and certainly on Simcoe, you can see the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And they can see you. Like, don't kid yourself. Like, you think of 25 feet in my boat, that's me at the front looking about a foot past my outboard motor. That's not very far. So I'm pretty sure a lot of those
when you put
fish,
it like that, yeah, that is only 25 feet.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah,
it's nothing. And so I prefer to be deeper. For the fish aren't going to be near as skittish. Like, I know on Simcoe in the fall, and you've probably been out there enough now to know that once a couple or three boats have drifted over an area, that's it. It's in most cases it's done, because they know you're up there. They know it's so clear. They see the boats. I'm pretty sure they can identify manufacturer by hull now. They're very educated.
Swim bait by model as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure of that too. But that's what. And so the main reason, like I said, is my cone angles are bigger, deeper. Fish are less skittish, deeper. They tend to be a little packed up, a little tighter, deeper in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And it's if I have a wheelhouse, that's it. I can pick them off my graph. And if I'm fishing in a situation where I can spot them and catch them, chances are I'm gonna probably make my mark by the end of the week, because that's what I do.
Do you do anything with your equipment that's different, or do you feel you give yourself an advantage by doing something different than most people?
Um, like my tackle, you mean? Like
Yeah,
my
yeah,
gear?
yeah, yeah. Rod reel bait is what I meant. Sorry.
Yeah. I think if one thing I do that most people don't is I'm extremely particular about which rod I use for which technique.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Predominantly known as a drop shotter, but I do. It really depends on the era we're in. It used to be a tube era. It's not so much anymore. Still catch fish on it. Don't get me wrong, but so I'll have, and when I say that is I'll have my setups will be exactly the same rod, exactly the same reel, exactly the same line, and I may have 12 of them, but they'll be the same, every one of them. And I do that because I know exactly how much pressure I can put on. I've got them dialed in. If you're losing fish on your drop shot rig, something is wrong. Either the rod action's wrong, the hook doesn't match the rod action, just the wrong hook. Braid floral. I made a kind of life altering decision probably 4 years ago now, and I was a very strong proponent of using straight fluorocarbon for drop shotting for years. And then we started spending more time drop shotting really, really deep. And when the 5 pound braid came into the fray, so to speak, I switched everything to 5, and I would never go back. I would
It's
say
amazing, isn't it?
over half the rods in my boat have 5 pound braid on them now. And all of my drop shot rods are 5 pound braid, 8 pound fluoro, swivel. They're all the same setup. The heights are different on my dropper, but you have to experiment with heights depending on the day. But they are exactly the same. When I hook set, I know my landing ratio is going to be south of 95%.
So
So,
you're throwing 5 to 8 pound fluoro. Do you feel that the fluoro is ever too big?
I've experimented with 6, and I get asked this question a lot. I experimented with 6. I experimented with 4. I'm a steelheader by background. I'm a trout guy. That's where I came from.
Yep.
And we used to fish a lot of super light line for steelhead, because that was before fluoro. I don't find the advantages outweigh the risk, because what happens in big water, Matt, is quite often you're being pushed away from the fish you're fighting,
Yep.
by wind or wave or combination of them. And quite often that fish will come up, and when he starts to shake his head against that 4 to 6 pound fluoro, it's a very short time before they break off. So my experience and I mean, dozens of hours of experimenting with lighter line, to me the risk didn't outweigh the gain. Fluorocarbo's not invisible, but pretty close to it. And again, all 8 pound fluoros aren't the same. Some are a lot thicker. That it may say 6, and then guys will come up and say to me all the time, "Well, I run 6 and I never break it." Well, chances are then if you did a strength test on it, it's 8 or 10.
Mm-hmm.
So diameters and what individual manufacturers call 8 may have someone else's 10 pound diameter.
Yep.
So don't get caught up on the 6 to 8, but I'm kind of talking about true 6 that you can break with your hands, because if you can't break 6 pound line with your hands, you're not a very strong guy. But I just don't think, in all my experiences, to shorten this up a bit, is it doesn't outweigh the risks of breaking off. We're not fishing for 3 pound fish. This isn't Bassmasters in the Ohio River. We are when we hook set, we're catching fish that are 5, 6, 7 pounds, and they can break you off pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So that's my rationale. I'm just I've done it all. Like I said, I for a whole fall, or late summer, when the fish on Erie can be tough, I spent out there with a 9.5 foot float rod, steelhead drift rod, and I ran 4 pound on a drop shot, and it didn't. What I found, Matt, is if I pulled up on a school of fish and they didn't want to bite, they didn't want to bite the 4 either. If they weren't active enough to feed, the 4 didn't make any difference whatsoever.
Now, this is the crazy thing. I have an exact opposite experience from that.
Well, they're
where,
situational.
yeah, that event that we kind of won there on Erie, the second day when we pulled up on the spot we were fishing, there was a boat on it that was throwing minnows with a slingshot. It was a New York guide boat,
Hmm.
and we just kind of idled around for 2 hours, waited for him to leave, and couldn't get bit in the first hour on. I was throwing 8 braid and 8 fluoro at the same time there. So I went to 6 and 4 and had a limit in the boat in 25 minutes
Wow.
where I found
Now, is your partner catching them though at the same time or no?
no,
Okay.
no, that like
Yeah,
the
but
guy
I'm not.
Derek Darren kicks my ass normally there, but those first 5 they weren't big, but it was 17 and change that we called out, but it was still 5 fish right away, and
Right.
it's made me kind of lighten everything up, and I have one rod now that just has stupid light on everything, and the smaller actually I learned from you a smaller hook because it's harder for them to throw it, and that's
Oh yeah, I'm a small hook guy for sure.
yeah I learned a hard lesson last year in an event about that, and then I went down to a number 2 hook, and it doesn't come out as easy as a 1/0.
No, that Gamakatsu split shot, drop shot hook is just the world class hook. The 1 and 2 with a
Mm-hmm.
braid and 8 pound or 6 pound setup.
Yeah.
Like I said, that's part of my setup for drop shotting. And like I said, when I'm landing 95% or better of my fish on that rig because I've fine tuned it to that point, and but a lot of it has to do with that hook. It's an incredible hook. It just has a way of wiggling through those hard-headed big smallmouth right through the hard part of their nose.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. And it was a midday change for an event that I did, and it made all the difference going to a smaller
That's
hook.
interesting. And I still have one rod in my boat on every day. It's a 7.5 foot NRX soft rod, and it will have 6 pound line on it. I never leave without it, but I just can't prove to myself that it's worth the risk. And again, when you're talking about you land at 17, but if you're in Lake Ontario that day and you knew you needed 25,
Yep.
and man, oh man, there's a big difference between a 3.5 pound fish on the line compared to a 5.5 when you're in waves, especially, and they fall out the side of a wave. I've had some bad things happen with 6, and hey, you know what? Other people maybe they don't pull as hard as I do, and they're not afraid to just take their time. And I don't waste a lot of time trying to land my fish as a rule.
Yeah, that's yeah. No, we called all but one out, but it was just that initial confidence bit there after watching
Oh,
someone just slay on them with live bait for 3 or 4 hours.
yeah, that's frustrating. But yeah, no, I hear you about the confidence thing. I always fish better with a limit in the boat, but certain lakes it doesn't bother me as much as others. But yeah, it certainly takes that edge off. I don't care if you're Van Damme, it takes the edge off. You watch these guys in Major League Fishing, you don't think they feel better after they get a couple.
No,
They're freaking out until they get one in the boat.
yeah, no, I fully agree with you there. Yeah, okay. So because of the angle that I've had in this industry for going on 12 years now, young person trying to get into this, let's say 14 years old, what's one piece of advice Derek Strube can give them to make them a better angler?
Oh, they have the biggest advantage in the world. They're the YouTube era kids, right? The social media era, just the electronics era. Like they can learn more on their phone in a week than my partner and I did 30 years ago in 4 years. And we laugh about that now, but I'm not kidding you. Like there was no help. Like we read every In Fisherman magazine, Fishing Facts magazine, Angler and Hunter. But you know what? These kids can learn a ton on YouTube. So spend lots of time. I'd say read a lot, but not a lot of people read anymore. But yeah, just do the homework. Figure out what they want to do. Be invested. I've been working with a young local fella here, and he's a phenomenal young fisherman, and he's well on his way. He's fishing tournaments already. He's 18. He bought his own boat. He's got it all going on, and man, he is I thought I was a diehard when I was young. This kid makes me. He's embarrassing. He's embarrassing me with his effort. Like all he does, he's just a fish head. All he thinks about is fishing.
That's
No,
awesome.
but yeah, just yeah, and you know what? And obviously, I never profess to people to buy the most expensive gear. I always tell people buy the best gear you can afford, because if you don't, you'll have to replace it fairly quickly. So if you spend and buy decent gear, um, you'll have that rod and reel for much longer period of time, and you can add as you go. But if you buy cheap stuff just to have more cheap stuff isn't better than having two real good outfits. So
I agree with you.
um,
We
yeah,
got a
so I think
question here off the
that's big
floor,
too.
Derek. If you could fish any lake to catch your personal best bass, what fishery would it be?
For trophy bass,
Yeah.
Simcoe hands down. Sorry, Erie guys. I know from my own experiences, and never in my life would I have thought I'd catch an 8 pounder. I caught one there. I've caught a dozen over 7 there. It's got giant fish. Mind you, you're going to spend the rest of your life trying to get a giant because they're so hard to catch, but it has the biggest fish of any lake.
Why do you think that is?
I guess it's food. Not like there's all kinds of food there, but there is on Erie as well. But Erie has way more competition. I would say per acre of water, there's so many more fish in Erie than there is in Simcoe.
Yeah.
Like it's like fishing Myers in the fall. You're going to catch 100 fish on a normal day.
I've never
And
experienced this. I think this is a lie.
you have to pick the right day. But there's so much competition for food, and that's like St. Clair. You don't see it. There are some big fish on St. Clair, but a 6 pounder is still a pretty significant fish on St. Clair, where it won't turn ahead anywhere else now, which is kind of scary to say too. But
yeah.
But yeah, so it's Simcoe all the way, hands down. When I get retired, I plan on committing a bit of time to try to catch a true trophy like Ontario record size. I have no doubt they're in that lake, and I'm not a huge fan of that lake. I am, and I'm not. It's kind of it's my nemesis in the sense that it's still one of the kind of the only any lake can embarrass you, but it's still one of the lakes where I kind of still cringe when it's 11 o'clock in the morning and I haven't got anything yet, because it can make you pucker up a bit.
It does.
It's a tricky one.
It's a very unique body of water, and I think you touched on it several times earlier there. It goes against every rule that has been written about fishing.
Yeah, for sure. Anything you think just chuck it and do something different.
Yep.
If I had to give the same advice for a lake that if you want to learn and catch lots of fish, and St. Clair is my favorite place to fish. And I don't mean for money, because if it was competing, I would say Lake Ontario hands down. But St. Clair is just a fish factory. It's so much fun. You can fish deep, you can fish shallow. It's a phenomenal lake. But trophy wise, Simcoe hands down.
Do you have any like largemouth guilty pleasures where you just roll into a lake and throw a frog or flip a jig or anything like that?
Nothing, and then people laugh at me when I say there's nothing I would rather do than fish a deep weed line with flipping rod.
Really?
Nothing.
I don't believe you.
No, buddy. I cut my teeth fishing the Swaba series, and we did nothing but flip long point, flip rondo, and flip St. Clair. That's all we did.
That's amazing.
I love fishing. Well, let's face it. It was probably 20 years ago, 18 years ago, when all the big events started being largemouth events, being smallmouth events on big water. So becoming a specialist and committing to the gear that is required for that kind of turned me from, and with the CFT disappearing, where you were going from Rice Lake to Rideau to Quinny to, you know what I mean, where we were switching back and forth between largemouth, smallmouth, and some of them were both, to basically all smallmouth.
Yeah.
But no, I love throwing a jig, and especially on a weed line.
So we've always kind of talked about going out early season or whatever. When Terry was around, he's a lot less fun now that he's married with a kid and stuff. I
I
think
talked to him a couple days ago.
I was messaging him this morning. I think he's going to call me tomorrow, but it's Terry, so you never know if he's going to call you tomorrow morning. I think I want to go largemouth fishing with you now.
Oh, I'm gonna, yeah, I do. I really enjoyed it. I'll have a lot more time coming up than I have in the past, but
I
you
think we're
know, and if
all
you're
going to
gonna,
have a lot more time than what we've had in the past for the
well,
next 4
we'll see what
months.
happens. Oh, I'm really saddened because I don't think Bob and I will be heading to that Sturgeon Bay tournament. I just don't think it's going to happen. Even if it does happen, I don't think our border's going to be open.
No,
So,
I agree with you there.
yeah, which is sad, but yeah, moving forward, I'm going to fish a lot more largemouth because I am considering moving to Lake St. Clair at some point. There is just miles of untouched largemouth fishing there because everybody fishes the world-class smallmouth fishery.
Yeah.
So,
Well, world-class fish is world-class fishery, right? If you like the largemouth fishing on Cooch, which is essentially Simcoe, well, it's not the same body of water, but it is the same body of water. I believe that you can get a lot like Rice Lake. What were people doing 15 years ago on Rice Lake? They were fishing big buckets. Now, what is all Rice Lake? It's big smallmouth.
all smallmouth.
Yeah.
You know, when the first tournament on Scugog that I ever seen was one with smallmouth, that was right around the time that we were all gearing up for smallmouth because I couldn't believe that. I think it was back to back. Rice was one with smallmouth for one of the first times,
Mm-hmm.
and then Scugog, of all places on the planet, was one with smallmouth. That was a pretty good indicator that it wasn't that long ago, Matt. Certainly in my career, where all the Simcoe tournaments were won in either Cooch or Cooks Bay for largemouth.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
It is.
Now you can win a smallmouth tournament in Cooks Bay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's changed. Gobies have changed things. Water clarity, zebra mussels.
Yep.
There's a ton of factors. Longer growing season, so to speak. It's all changed.
Georgian Bay. Yeah, no, you know what? Georgian Bay. It's Brian was just mentioning there. It's another phenomenal fishery where you can get trophy largemouth and trophy smallmouth all in the same body of water.
Mm-hmm. Too scary for me. I don't like the boating thing there.
No, why is that?
Actually, I like fishing there. I've done a few tournaments there along the way. Just because
It's the only place I've
it's
ever placed higher than you in tournaments on Georgian Bay.
I don't know if that's true, but
that's the only place I've placed higher than Derek Strube in a tournament.
you gotta fish against me more. You'll see me falter.
Oh yeah, that never happens.
But it is still a scary place. Like even with the latest greatest technology, Scott and I fished one with Scott Palmer, and we idled 100, 200 meters from an island and powered up and took a lower end off. So
yeah, it's a little scary. It's a little different now. That water's up so high right now that it's islands that you're worried about hitting instead of submerged rocks. But
yeah, we did a tournament on Kashi 2 years ago, Curry and I, just for fun, and we never did put it on plane. I was too scared. That place is crazy, man. Even on electric, was like, look at the size of that nature nugget. It was right 3 inches under the water in the middle of nowhere. The graph shows nothing, the map shows nothing. So I'm a little skittish on destroying a boat.
yeah, no, I believe that. And if it's not the rocks that'll get you at those waves on Georgian Bay coming in from the big water. But looking at that new boat, it doesn't look like you have to worry about things like that now.
Certainly, I haven't worried about it a lot lately, but I certainly have to worry about it less now. It's going to be a significant boat for dealing with big water. Looking forward to showing guys.
Yeah, when's the maiden voyage of your Rage?
I don't have it yet. The one I was demoing the other day is a dealer boat.
Yep.
In light of current world conditions, I'm not sure yet.
Mm-hmm.
The build papers, the build information's in, but it all depends at what rate the factory's operating staffing wise and things like that. So I really don't have an answer to that. To be fair, I would say be pretty fortunate if I had it by the third week of May at this point.
Right.
I certainly haven't pressed for an answer to that question. We all know that this isn't an era where you push anybody for anything. It's kind of life is on standstill to some degree for everyone.
It's a crazy time right now. It feels I was in the grocery store Monday and it felt like I was in a movie. So
yeah, do you know Bob Spicer at all?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Did you see his shots of the airports coming home from Mexico yesterday?
No, all I seen was him in Mexico, and I was a little jealous.
He he said he was actually at Goosebumps because he spends a lot of time in airports. He
Yep.
flies around the country a lot. He was in showed pictures of the main airport in Mexico and Pearson, and there was no one cleaning staff.
It's weird.
Yeah, just and he said planes parked in rows that aren't going anywhere. Like it's kind of I don't want to use the word apocalyptic because this is nothing like that, but it's certainly you know what made people refocus and spend more time at home, spend more time with their families, and yeah, I don't know. All you see lately in this neighborhood of mine is a lot of people walking together, which these are people that my wife and I walk the dog multiple times a day, and
Yep.
these are people I've never seen before. So it's putting people together, and they have more time together. That's for sure.
I know it's definitely a strange time, but we're pushing.
We'll get through it.
Oh yeah, we will. We have before, and apparently something like this every 100 years happens. So we've lasted however many hundreds before. So
Yeah, it's just going to need to do a little social distancing on the boat here in the near future. I think.
yeah, I'm. I think mine comes in next month or so. So I'll be looking forward to doing that. I'm going to do a little bit more video on the boat because I don't think there's going to be too many early season tournaments, and I definitely cannot run across Erie right now. So it'd be a lot of time to build up the socials there. But where
idea.
where can people find you online, Derek?
Actually, yes. Thanks for that. I'm nobody uses Twitter, but I am on Twitter. Instagram
Unless you're
at
the
Derek
president
Strube.
of the United States of America.
Yes, he's right up with technology. Yeah, under Derek Strube on both Facebook and Instagram um, are the main two
Yep.
to find me. I do respond to questions quicker on Facebook than I do Instagram. So if people do have questions, feel free. I do get to them. They may not be the same day, but I do make an effort to get to all my questions. So, yeah, other than that, yeah,
That's
that's
awesome.
the main way anyway. Yeah. YouTube, Derek Strube Fishing. I am going to start really promoting that. I want that I'll start leaning on people harder for that in the near future. I want to start sharing a lot of on water stuff and start handing off some of this knowledge I've made over all these years because my tournament days aren't done yet, but they will be at some point.
We can go out fishing together one day this year, maybe.
That'd be good. Yeah, I can't believe we haven't got out yet.
Well, yeah, it looks like we're gonna have a lot of time. So
Yeah, that could very well be. I don't know that we're going to be allowed to cross that imaginary line in the water, but I sure hope we can. I hope they don't hold us out of
the first thing I'm
waters.
going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to try to catch some of those Lake Erie walleye because I think the grocery stores don't have any walleye in them right now.
What is that still open now on Erie?
I don't think it
Canadian
closes.
side?
Could someone fact check this for me? Because I know I'll be texted later telling me I'm wrong.
I don't think it's open on the Canadian side.
It's not, but it will be by the time I get my boat.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it'll be definitely open when I have my
good
boat.
Good point. Yeah, that's right. That's coming later. I'm usually gone by then for Wisconsin, but
yeah,
I'm guessing. You know what? I might head to St. Clair, and there's some spectacular walleye fishing down that way too. I might do that for a bit.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Derek,
hey, thanks
it's
very much.
Been an absolute pleasure. I've looked up to you for years, so you agreeing to come on this was a joy for my week, so I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me, Matt, and certainly happy to help along the way. You know, if anything, I say too much doing club seminars, and I'm always there to help anglers for sure.
Awesome. You're a class act, Derek. I very much appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me, and take care.
Yep, we'll talk to you real soon.
You bet. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. Well, truthfully, folks, he is one of my favorite anglers of all time. I don't mean to fanboy out on him, but if you look at some back of his stats, the guy's an absolute stud and one of the best that Canada's ever produced. So it's nice to talk to him, and he's like the nicest guy you'll ever meet. So, yeah, if we got any more questions coming on in here, then I think we can let go. We had a great little turnout again. We're going to keep this live for next little bit. Seeing if I missed any questions here. Tim's excited to get out with Derek in that new boat. Mike Kiss, thank you for your participation tonight. You had a bunch of great questions coming in. Michael Hawks, probably one of the best co-anglers I've ever had. Not even a co-angler, we just went out fun fishing. Brian Barry, always nice to see him popping in and about. And Chenzo comes to my house, eat my sausage, and then never comes back. I screwed up our video. Sorry, buddy. Gord, thank you for the accolade there. Terry, welcome. This was a lot of fun. Got to speak smallmouth fishing, deep water smallmouth fishing, with probably one of the best that there is or will be for a long time. So we appreciate that. I really enjoyed all your comments. I got text messages for a couple days after the last episode. I think as long as I am isolated in my house, I'm going to be doing these. Again, this was not the initial intent for Matt Pizzetta Presents. It was supposed to be more of a cooking-related idea, but why not? I'm going to try to get some interesting guests on. I'm going to see if I can get someone to talk about some of the issues that we have, maybe Asian carp, maybe completely change it up and talk about the financial situation in our country right now. I don't know. But I think we're going to do this once a week, Wednesday, Thursday. I don't know, whenever I'm available, although I'm not doing very much right now. It was great. I appreciate everybody for coming out. You'll be able to watch this back. Matt Kelly has to watch the video because you did come in late, Matt Kelly. You were probably working, putting an exhaust in a Camaro or something cool like that. Yeah, no, that's all right. Everybody, I appreciate your time. Thank you for sitting, listening with me. If you have suggestions for people that you would like to hear from, let me know. If you have suggestions of topics, let me know. If you want to see some cooking, let me know. I'm completely open because there is absolutely no format to what we're doing. It's kind of amazing. I appreciate all your time. Be safe, be well. Cheers. We'll catch you next week.